What is up guys, my name is Dragan, and in today's video, as you've probably read the title, I'll be talking about the ultimate guide on how to text a girl. Just quick before we get started, make sure to subscribe and click on the bell next to the subscribe button so that you never miss new videos like this that are coming out every single weekend. I've noticed that a lot of guys text girls just for the sake of it, where instead of flirting, bonding, and finally setting up dates, they text her something like good morning, which is really dumb and pointless in my opinion. Just think for a second, where the hell are you going with that sort of text? That's right, probably nowhere. So if you're going to text a girl, the first thing that you certainly want to have is have a goal in mind, because if you don't, then you're simply wasting your time doing absolutely nothing, because you won't be moving things forward and you won't achieve anything. This is why you need to use texting as a way to keep yourself relevant in the girl's mind when you're not physically there, which is an amazing thing, because if you know how to send amazing texts, then she'll be eager to go out with you. But you may ask, what do these amazing texts have that mines don't? Before I tell you the whole spiel, you first need to understand how women actually read your texts, because this thing is actually crucial when getting to know on how to be a better texter. When a girl receives your text, she is typically in the middle of something like working, checking her social media, reading, watching videos, and so on. And once she reads it, she'll react in one of three possible ways. First, she'll be annoyed because your text offers more than it gives her in return. Second, she'll be bored because your text isn't that demanding, but it doesn't intrigue her either. And third, she'll be grabbed because your text intrigues her. And to get this third type of response, which is obviously the one you want, then you'll need to do these three steps. First, make her feel intrigued, which is when you text her something that draws her into the conversation. Then you need to build up some rapport, which is when you text her something that creates a feeling of intimacy between the two of you. And finally, you have to escalate, as this is where you text her something like asking her to go on a date with you. This is the most important step in my opinion, because you'll actually start to get things moving forward and you won't be stuck around being her text buddy. Unfortunately, most men do not know about this texting principle, I would say, as they make mistakes in one or all of these categories. So to better understand this strategy, let me show you an example, a text that fails at all three. Firstly, this text doesn't intrigue her because bland statements about last weekend's party, the latest Hollywood blockbuster, or a generic trip to the gym do not make her feel intrigued. Also, it doesn't build rapport with her, and instead, it dumps a bunch of unrelated things on her in hopes something sticks. And most importantly, it doesn't escalate things with her, since there is no flirtation, no deeper connecting, and he doesn't even ask her out. Most girls will simply avoid responding to this kind of text, as there is absolutely no intrigue, no rapport, and no escalation. She just simply doesn't want to reply to this. So, what should your text include? A good text in my rulebook is one that creates intrigue, builds up rapport, and escalates. Here is an example of a text that has all three of these aspects, and just notice the difference. To begin with, this text has intrigued her by mentioning an amazing ski trip without explaining why it was amazing. It built up rapport by using her name, while also it related to something known about her life, which was the party, and used some callback humor, which in this example, the girl had previously mentioned fighting with her siblings. And most importantly, it escalated by asking her out on a date. After you have mastered this three-way texting combo of building up intrigue, creating some rapport, and therefore escalating, now I'm going to show you some additional texting rules that you also need to follow so that you can maximize your chances of going on a date, but also not come across as that needy guy. The first rule is to text her within the first 48 hours of your initial interaction. Sending her a quick text after you've got her number or social media like "great meeting you" allows her to save your info in her phone. The last thing you want to do is text her a few days later and have her asking like, "Who the hell is this?" This can totally make the conversation awkward and weird, because now you'll begin doubting yourself if you came across as creepy. This is why just don't wait too long to reach out. The dumbest rule that I've heard in the dating scene is to call or text a chick after a week of your initial interaction, which is so pointless because in that time span, she might find a better option and she might think that you're just simply not that interested. This is why texting her sooner rather than later is going to be so beneficial for you, and not just for you but her as well, because the vibe is still going to be alive between the two of you. And my advice would be to initiate contact within the first 48 hours of your initial interaction, but you can even text her the next day and you won't come across as that needy guy that texts her ASAP, and you won't be wasting any of your time, beating around the bush and just waiting. The next texting rule is to keep your messages short. Listen, texting isn't about writing a book. It's a simple tool used to link up, flirt, and catch up with your loved ones. This is why you'll want to keep your text messages pretty concise, because when you're sending more than 2 or 3 sentences in one text, it can be a bit too much to read and respond. So it's better to text her brief thoughts or questions to really engage with her and not make yourself look like you're chasing her. Please, just don't send her paragraphs for the love of God. Listen, when you write these long paragraphs, you subconsciously turn her off because you seem like you put in way too much effort, and because of this, the conversation will start to lose its groove and is going to pressure the girl to respond in a similar way, which is certainly a thing that you don't want to do. So, my advice would be to send her shorter, brief messages and save the long, paragraphs for the real life conversations. And in this way, you won't put too much pressure on her and will make her feel better than sending her a book. The next texting rule is to respond in a timely manner. Playing these texting games of when and when not to respond is just silly and childish. While you don't need to respond right away to her text message, because in that way you show that you don't have a life, waiting more than let's say 12 hours is just too long and rude. Unless you are in situations that don't allow you to respond, like working or being busy in general, you'll want to respond within 3 to 4 hours. And if you're in the flow of back and forth messaging, then keep the pace of your responses relatively short unless you are really busy, which I advise you all of you to be. Just don't wait too long to respond, because not only are you going to push her away with this sort of behavior, it's also going to make it difficult to form any sort of connection. To simply put it, communication is key when forming connections. So make sure, if you genuinely, like this girl, make sure to communicate with her and respond to her text messages a bit more in a timely fashion. The last texting rule is that if she doesn't respond to your initial text, I would advise you to not double text her and just simply give her some time and space to respond. Listen, she may have a very busy lifestyle that's keeping her hands tied up, so when you text her, give her plenty of time to respond. If she hasn't responded to your text after a day, then she may not be interested in getting to know you on a deeper level. Just don't assume that her lack of response is your fault, because she really might not be that interested, and just don't get disappointed, because I was once that guy who was really disappointed / sad when a girl had rejected me or just simply didn't respond to my texts. Please don't get discouraged, and instead be proud of yourself that you actually had the balls to step up and text her, because if you didn't, you will be regretting, and regret is a much worse feeling than rejection. Know that. So to get back on track, my advice would be to send her an initial text after your initial contact, and if she doesn't respond, you can send her a text a couple of days after you have sent her the first text. But I wouldn't do this because it would seem like I'm over caring and over pursuing. So just text her like one short simple text, and if she doesn't respond, then simply move on. So to conclude this whole video, the first thing that you want to do is to text with a purpose. The second thing that you want to do is to text her using the three-way texting combo of building up intrigue, creating some rapport, and escalating. And finally, apply the guidelines that I showed you in this video, the texting rules, the texting additional guidelines, so that you do not come across as that needy guy. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this one, then make sure to subscribe and click on the bell next to the subscribe button so that you never miss new videos like this that are coming out every single weekend. Love y'all, and peace.